Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 3965. Today's date is March 26, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:09 p.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Alright, the question is, how can we better integrate socio-economical learning, resilience, adaptability, and communication into mainstream school experience rather than treating them a optional extra classes? All right, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is a question about Indian education system. Okay, why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to become a education minister of India, and I wanted to change this Indian education system. Okay, like kind of like a feel like that ki I am the one who could kind of like a change everything. Okay, yeah. But it's this thing na ki like why am I asking this question to myself? The main thing is that ki in somewhere in the future I will become that particular person. And when I became that particular person, I wanted to make sure that the everything that I will gonna do should supposed to have a reason. I wanted to aware of what is actually the current situation of Indian education system. If I wanted to just aware of that at the moment, will I able to be change the education system or not? That question will gonna that decide in the future. Today, what do I supposed to do is asking question to myself and kind of like a simply that key whatever the idea that I have, kind of like a tell that idea. All right. So yeah. So regarding about this question, the question says that how can we better integrate socio-economic learning, resilience, adaptability, and communication into the mainstream school experience rather than treating them an optional extra? Like the kind of like a simply is this thing. Now this question is a kind of like a simply. Let me kind of like a simplify this question. Okay. How can we make things like teamwork, handling stress, talking clearly to a normal part of school every day instead of just something extra like hobby chest? Okay. Like even if I kind of like a simplified this question now. Okay. Let me kind of like a simplify this question again. Okay, so that you might gonna understand even better. Okay. So basically this thing na ki the question is that ki if I wanted to implement my if I wanted to kind of like a simply add any kind of like a simply value to the Indian education system, how do I supposed to do that? And what are those values? The values are, first value is a social economic learning, second value is a resilience, third value is adaptability, fourth value is a communication. These are the kind of like a these are kind of like a four value. How do I supposed to kind of like a provide those four value in our Indian education system? What is actually my plan? What is actually how do I supposed to execute that thing? Okay, let me clarify. Okay, in conventional method of kind of like a education system are mostly focus on exams. Yeah, and that is completely wrong. Okay, I think that na ki exam is a kind of like a one thing that it is completely useless. Like first of all, it doesn't really kind of like a define the credibility of the person, credibility of the student doesn't. Another thing, because of the exam, student gets stressed out. Okay, they kind of like a loss, kind of some people kind of like a lost their life because of the exam and things and that and that. Third thing is that even if we have an exam and even if we kind of like a simply hire a people according to the exam that says that this particular person is really good and that particular person doesn't really perform that well. Why? Because of that, all the energy he kind of like spend on just exam, and that's it. And that is a kind of like one of the biggest problem, that exam is not kind of like define the credible person. Definitely not. Okay, yeah. And Indian education system are mostly focused on just exam, marks, and things and that and that. And that is kind of like a very crippled. Okay, yeah. Also, is this thing, education, it doesn't really meant that key learning about the like a science, maths, coding, and things and that and that. No. Sometimes na education is meant to be learn about something that like these value, like a socio-economics value, resilience, adaptability, communication. And these are kind of like a value my education or conventional method of education doesn't really tell. Nothing really at all. So basically, I cannot change the conventional method of education system, but if I wanted to kind of like so make sure that reform will gonna happen when I kind of like change the education system, or what exactly is this thing? What is actually my program? Like basically is this thing, if I wanted to execute my education system name is Gurukul program. If I wanted to execute my Gurukul program, are those value will I provide to the student? And let's talk about step by step. Will I able to provide or not? And if I able to provide that value, how do I supposed to provide that value? Okay, first of all, the one thing really required that this value is not gonna implement until and unless we have to remove the pressure of exam. Okay, yeah. Because when we remove the pressure of exam, then we could add those values. It's a kind of like a thing that these are kind of like a value only and only implement when there is a exam is not there. Because if the every person who's kind of like a judge by the marks, then no one care about how good you are and how bad you are. Yeah, they just kind of like look at the number and that's it. Okay, yeah. So first of all, exam I don't want it. And in my Gurukul program, exam is like there is no exam at all. Nothing at all. Okay, yeah. Every person credibility is kind of like defined by the consistent effort. Like people who kind of like somebody open my application, Gurukul app, and they will kind of like somebody do their kind of like a homework, spend almost like a half an hour and things and that on my application. They will learn, they will get consistent effort. Okay, yeah. With the consistent effort, they are kind of like getting the score, and because of that score, they are kind of like refine your work. They will kind of like assembly, because my application will kind of like define you, kind of like who you are, what kind of like a good and things and that. Okay, so basically one thing is that there is no exam at all. Okay, yeah. In my Gurukul program there is no exam at all. So if I don't really have exam, then those are values are kind of like started implement in the student life. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about this value step by step and how do I supposed to implement those value in my education system. First of all, socio-economics learning, like understanding about the people. How do I supposed to kind of like simply implement that socio-economic kind of like a learning? Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, what is actually socio-economic learning is kind of like simply understanding the people. Now, like basically it's kind of like a sound so simple, sound so creepy, but sound so like understanding people. Like why do I supposed to be understand people? Okay, yeah. Why do I supposed to understand people? That is a kind of like somebody really important question that you have to ask. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna kind of like give you example. Have you ever fight with somebody? Or maybe have you ever like a basically this thing, instead of fighting, kind of like a look at the people who are fighting. Okay, yeah. Maybe your parents, or maybe kind of like somebody, kind of like a two people are fighting at the kind of like a roadside, whatever it is. Okay, yeah. Just kind of like somebody look at them and analyze them. When you analyze, when the both people are actually fighting, they don't want to understand each other. They just want to kind of like a simply that kid telling their point. Okay, that is called argument. Like one person argument, another person argument. That's it. Like basically another person is not kind of like a simply listening what does other person saying. Same that other person is also not listening, he just kind of like a saying, and that comes with a kind of like a assembly argument. And when this actually happened, that is called kind of like a something is this thing that you are not understanding the people. Okay. Now this is not just a one case, there are multiple things. You have to understand people with very different contexts. Like basically, let me tell you one thing now. Okay. Every time it's not a kind of like a things that like basically you like I don't know, it's a kind of like a things that okay, how do I understand people? Okay, let me kind of like assembly describe you how do I understand people. Okay, I am not extrovert person. Okay, I am trying to be extrovert, but literally just think that my kind of like assembly coping mechanism or internal mechanism is not kind of like a meant to be extrovert person. I'm trying to be extrovert, but I am not that much. Okay, but whatever, I'm trying to kind of like explain. Okay, so basically this thing, there is a kind of like only one friend of mine who just kind of like simply love to talk. Yeah, he loves to talk, and you might gonna encounter such a people who are kind of like a love to talk. Okay, now what exactly it means? It means that they just love to talk, they just hate to listen. Yeah, get it? Oh yeah, like basically this thing, the people who are kind of like a love to talk, it's very difficult to communicate with them. Why? Because they are hate to listen. Yeah, they don't understand listening. Like they don't understand, they don't listening that much well. Okay, yeah. And that is a kind of like a very big thing. No, I am not kind of like a somebody pointing out who is kind of like a wrong and right, but these people are actually exist. I understand them, and when I understand, I kind of like a simply make him talk more. Okay, yeah. Why? Because of that, he loves talking, and basically this thing na, if I wanted to build a relationship with that particular person, what do I supposed to do? Let him talk more. Okay, let him talk more. Okay, yeah. Like it's a kind of like a trick that you have to understand. Okay, yeah. Like basically this thing na, like you have to kind of like build a right relation with that particular person, or kind of like a better relationship, and that particular person love to talk. So basically give them a kind of like a reason to talk. They particular person kind of like a talk, and they just kind of like a somebody automatically, that particular person kind of like a create value inside of you. Okay, yeah. And when you are kind of like a somebody give them a reason to talk, as also kind of like a somebody you are listening them, that particular person understand, and that particular person kind of like a somebody say this thing, okay, this is about me, then what about you? Okay, yeah. Even if that particular person kind of like a love to talk, he also kind of like a give you opportunity to talk. That is called understanding the people. You understand your whoever the person you are. Okay, yeah. Understand and kind of like a somebody act according to his point of perspective, like what he want, and act upon it. Okay, yeah. Now another thing is that there are kind of like so many people. Okay, yeah. Different people have different kind of like a thought process, and different thought process people are kind of like a somebody act very differently. Let me tell you one thing, you, me, everyone are kind of like a look really same. We all are human. We don't look kind of like a very differently, nothing really at all, but we are so different, literally so different. Okay, yeah. So let me kind of like a somebody tell you, some people are like a basically not so good. Okay, and they just kind of like a very like a fuck person. Fuck person means like literally just like that na, you don't like this particular person as kind of like a you really hate them a lot. Okay, yeah. So basically how do you supposed to get rid of them? Okay, yeah. Like how do you supposed to get rid of them? Like basically saying this particular people are kind of like somebody is this thing that you don't want to interact and things and that. So how do you supposed to be kind of like a simply get rid of them? So basically this is na, in that particular period of time, what you have to do is kind of like a make distance. Okay, and try not to kind of like have any kind of like interaction with him. Even if there is a essential interaction, do it. But if there is no interaction at all, don't do any kind of like interaction. No hi, no hello, maybe kind of like a things, or maybe kind like basically understand. Okay, let's just say your boss or maybe your team leader. Okay, you hate your team leader. This particular person is like a really asshole and things and that and that. Okay, but basically this thing, he's your team leader. Okay, you can't say this thing, you are kind of like a fucked up person and things and that and that. Okay, so in that particular period of time, what do you supposed to do? Now that is a very much essential, because he is a team leader and he's a kind of like a somebody became a ladder of your career. Because if you wanted to build up your career, you need a kind of like a somebody a kind of like a somebody a good word about you. Okay, if the team leader kind of like a tell the manager that ki this particular person is kind of like a really good and things and that, obviously your chances would be higher to get promotion, and you will get kind of like a get appraisal, get more money and things and that. Okay, so even if that you're kind of like a somebody, even if your senior or your team leader is kind of like a very fuck person, but that is very much essential. So what should you supposed to do? What exactly is this thing? Okay, let's say there is a situation came that weekend your team leader called and say this thing, listen Saurabh, we have to kind of like somebody have a deadline and we have to complete this deadline, so would you come to the kind of like assembly weekend? Okay, now basically this thing na ki, like basically this thing, understand the importance. Okay, let me tell you one thing, project submission is also really essential, but weekend is also really essential too. Okay, you are kind of like a somebody that key kind of like a somebody spending entire day and night on that office. Weekend is actually mine. Okay, so basically is this thing that key understand things when the project is really necessary and project really demand that key your importance and things and that, then you go. Also one thing is that key make sure that key also participate, like it's not that na ki like basically the team leader just called you and rest of people are kind of like a stay away, or your team leader kind of like a simply at the home and things like that. No, don't do that. Like it kind of like a feel like that na ki he was kind of like a using you. Okay, so basically is this thing, what you have to say is this thing, this like my answer would be kind of like very much different. Do not kind of like simply give them my answer, because understand the consequences. Okay, and then you have to execute. They just say, sir, listen, okay, I understand the kind of like a essential of the deadline and things and that, but I spend almost entire week on the office, spend almost like a 10 hour. I'm really exhausted and I'm really required my rest. So like basically it's not really that I don't want to, but even if I come, I might gonna come for at least like a 2 hour, that's it. Okay, and I will gonna come at the evening, that's it. If you are agree, then I will gonna do, or I'm not. I'm sorry sir, I am completely like a feel like a wrong, but this is kind of like somebody that I want, I need my rest, sir, please. Okay, if you kind of like convince him properly, you would kind of like somebody that particular person understand, like you let him tell that the gravity of the situation and things and that, and also tell your gravity to you, the your perspective too. Okay, you are not denying that fact, but you are also kind of like telling that ki I will gonna come for only 2 hour and things and that, that's it. You are kind of like a safe side. That particular person, team leader, gonna say okay, theek hai, like he will gonna decide. Okay, because you made up your point very clearly. Okay, you want rest, and if you wanted to come, you will gonna come at evening only for 2 hour, that's it. Okay, so basically team leader will decide, okay, 2 hour things and that. Now he is in the question. Okay, things and that. So this is how you kind of like assembly assisting somewhat something, you talk professionally but with very pleasing. Don't kind of like argue and things and that. Okay, sometimes kind of like use nice words. Now this is what actually happen when you kind of like understanding the people. Okay, and change your behavior according to the in front of that particular person. That is called understanding the people. Okay, now how it kind of like simply implement in the education system. Okay, let's just say you are a teacher. Okay, and how do you supposed to be kind of like assembly? No, it's not understanding the people, Okay, this might not like basically this is na understanding the concept is a kind of like a very much different, and it's a kind of like a simply this thing that key I don't kind of like a tell you the what kind of like a better way to kind of like a utilize this technique in somewhat something. Education, yes, but it's a kind of like a thing that you have to decide that key how do I supposed to implement this in my kind of like a stuff, how do I supposed to understand people and things. You have to figure it out by yourself. I already told you how do I supposed to do that. You have to figure it out by yourself and things and that. Okay. Second value, resilience, bounce back. Okay. Like basically is this thing now, how what exactly is this thing? Okay. So basically is this thing, resilience means like that कि sometime it's okay to be fail. Okay, like sometime it just kind of like somebody is this thing that कि it's not a kind of like a thing that ना कि specifically in India, failure considered as a kind of like a loser, wrong and things and that. Resilience is a kind of like somebody makes you okay. Like there is no bad at all. Like your world will not gonna die if you kind of like somebody is this thing fail at something. Okay, specifically in Indian education system, that is a kind of like one of the really important factor. In conventional method of education system is that they are kind of like a bit more focus on kind of like exam and things and that. Now, so many students are kind of like put lot of effort to crack the exam and things and that. But when they didn't really crack the exam, they lose their hope. They lose their kind of like a temper. They lose their like a lot of thing. Like a basically is this thing na giving them exam like a kind of like a like basically end the life is kind of like a somebody became far more easier than a kind of like a giving the exam and things and that. Why? Because they have a kind of like a somebody very less resilience regarding about that ki they think that ki failure means end of the life, but that is not. Sometimes failure is also okay too. Okay, let me tell you one thing. Throughout my entire period of lifetime, I am fucked, like literally fucked. In my 10th standard, I got 56%. Okay, yeah. Touchwood, by the way, I chose science stream because of I came from kind of like a simply very local hometown, and choosing a science stream is kind of like a very much possible. Okay, if I'm kind of like living in kind of like a metro city, I will not gonna get the science stream because the kind of like a somebody cutoff was really higher. But I was actually come from such a city where kind of like a somebody's cutoff was very low. So basically is this thing na I choose science stream, and then I kind of like a somebody take 11-12 standard. Now basically in the 12th standard I get 49%, almost in every subject I pass in just boundary. That's it, just a boundary. Okay, and basically this thing na ki after I kind of like a 12th I have to go to the engineering college. In the engineering college I need a kind of like a PCM marks, physics chemistry marks. Out of 300 I need at least like a 135 marks to get into the engineering college. Okay, yeah. How much I get? I get 111. Okay, surprise is not that thing. Surprise is that ki on that year, like in 2009, okay, 2011, okay, in 2011 new rule came, and in the new rule came basically is this thing na ki is this thing that ki the people who are kind of like belong from scheduled caste community, like I belong from scheduled caste community, they can able to be get into the engineering college even if they have 120 marks. Like basically is this thing that ki the mark like the required for get into the engineering college is kind of like a get lower from 135 to 120. But even if I didn't fit in that criteria, so all my friends went into the engineering college, I went to diploma college. Now this is not done yet. I went to engineering diploma direct second year because I complete 12th. Okay, yeah. So engineering diploma means polytechnic. Okay, yeah. And basically I went to direct second year. So basically it will gonna took me 2 years to complete engineering diploma, right? Like a second year and final year. That's it. But it took me 6 years to complete 2 years of engineering diploma. 6 fucking year. I fail in so many subjects and things, and that 2 year I kind of like suddenly have a gap. I don't know how I supposed to explain it. Just so much. Okay, yeah. Another thing. Somehow I kind of like passed the engineering diploma. I realized that okay, I am not able to a person who cannot do a graduation. Like literally, I cannot. If I started doing engineering, probably it will gonna took me 10 years to complete engineering. So obviously, I didn't decided that. Okay, yeah, like I decided that I will not gonna go to the engineering college. Okay, yeah. Then I kind of like started doing a job. I wanted to be a filmmaker and things and that. Started doing a job in maintenance. Did it for a year. Realized that I don't want to kind of like get into that whole mess and things and that. Kind of like we started kind of like learning AutoCAD, Creo, CAD software. After 8 months, I got another job from a company, a corporate company. I worked there for almost like a 2.5 year. Realized that I'm kind of like a really good and things and that. COVID happened, everything lost. And when everything lost, I realized that what is actually worth of my life? Like everything effort that I did, it's just gone. So I decided that I just have to do myself. I started YouTube. Like I wanted to be a filmmaker, but obviously it's this thing that if I want to filmmaker, I have to go to the Bombay, and I need a money. I don't really have any kind of like a money at that time. So I chose to be kind of like a YouTuber, so that it would be kind of like somewhat something associated with the filmmaking thing. So I started making travel films. I kind of like make a kind of like a lot of videos. Okay, yeah. And March 2021, okay, March 2021, March 2022. Okay, yeah. Like I started YouTube at like basically I was kind of like only when I came home I'm continue doing YouTube and things and that. Okay, yeah. I was not really serious. Okay, yeah. Like I was kind of like deciding, okay, that what do I supposed to be, a filmmaker or be a YouTuber or what? Okay, yeah. I've been serious at August 2021. Okay, yeah. Like till the August, like basically I came home at 17th of March 2020, and August 2021. It took me almost like maybe 1 year, 1.5 year to kind of like assembly, kind of like decide that who I want to become as a YouTuber or as a kind of like a filmmaker and things like that. August 2021, I decided that I wanted to be a YouTuber. I started making travel films, made a couple of video, didn't really work out, all my fail and things and that. And then I realized that gaming content would be kind of like a booming really well. So why not I try this thing? So March 2022, I started gaming content creation. From almost like a 2 year, I did gaming content creation. March 2022 to May 2024. Okay, yeah. And I failed so miserably. Understand that I'm not really good at gaming communication because gaming required a kind of like some fun and things. I am not that funny guy. I realized that, and then I started kind of like creating this kind of like a photography, Photoshop, graphic designing piece of thing. And since then I'm kind of like doing. It's been almost like a 2 year I'm doing this thing. Okay, right now, let me tell you one thing, my today's point of perspective. Right now I have 1,700 something subscriber on YouTube platform for all the effort that I did. Okay, on my main channel. The gaming channel that I created, it has 370 something subscriber, 300 something subscriber. Okay, I also have another gaming short channel too, which has almost like a 5,000 subscriber, but that channel is actually dead because I'm not actually uploading anything at all. Okay, so and after all those things, I'm 32. I am still at my home, still living with my parents. I'm not really earning money, recording this shit and kind of like talking about I will gonna become a education minister of India. Do you understand how fuck I was? Okay. Literally just like that na, कि sometimes I just kind of like say भाई कितना छूते है यार, like you are not only earning any fucking any amount of money and you just kind of like thinking about that, talking about resilience, understanding the people and god not what the fuck is that. Okay, but throughout my entire bit of life I fail a lot. I still failing a lot. Okay, yeah. Like I'm not even succeed. Okay, yeah. But still I have hope. And why is that? Because the one thing that I did something right throughout my entire bit of life. And that is artifact. I don't know how I supposed to explain this thing, but like I started creating this artifact on 11th of February 2015. Since then, I'm being continue every single day. It's been almost like a 11 year. I'm kind of like doing this thing, and because of this thing, I am getting so much amount of value, information, and things and that and that. Obviously, this is thing you shouldn't supposed to take my advice, okay? But obviously, this thing if you are kind of like listening this thing till that time, I might gonna become that particular person that you think it is. Whatever. So basically, is this thing na ki do I have a resilience? I think I have. Okay, because after I kind of like fail in so many things, still I have courage to kind of like say I will become a kind of like education minister of India. Because I think that na ki throughout my entire bit of life, I fail a lot and I learn a lot from my failure. Like so much. I am not really good at kind of like simply understanding things. I know I am like a really fuck person, but I still believe that ki I could able to do something right. And I don't know, I do have that kind of like simply belief inside of me. Is it resilience? I don't know. I just say this thing that ki failure is a part of process. If you are failing, that means you are trying something. If you are not failing, you are not trying. I am trying every single day. I am uploading my content every single day. I am kind of like putting my effort every single day. I don't really believe in future. I believe in today. I have a kind of like a goal to things and that I wanted to achieve and things like that and that. But I don't have any kind of like a plan for execution. I just have today. I focus on today to make my day as much as productive as it can. That's it. And that's what I'm doing it. And that's what I'm kind of like asking question to myself that ki one day I will gonna become like what will gonna happen? Like I'm kind of like recording this audio artifact episode, might gonna upload this on or YouTube platform. Who will gonna listen? Obviously is this thing, if you are kind of like listening this thing is because of I will become something. Okay, yeah. If I didn't really become anything at all, why would you kind of like listening this thing? You would gonna not, right? So this is what it is. Like basically is this thing na, is that ki if you're not popular, then your failure is a kind of like a gone. Okay, yeah. Like no one will kind of like remember your failure. Okay, just keep doing it. Okay, yeah. If you are popular, then your failure will gonna remember a lot. But I'm not popular at the time, so I'm just kind of like doing it. Okay, yeah. Even if I failure, that's it. Yeah, it's just kind of like a typical another video will kind of like stay in YouTube and that's it. No one gonna watch. But if you're kind of like listening this thing, that means I became something. So do I have a resilience? I think I have it. So basically, this thing na ki what kind of like some resilience do I want to provide in my education system? Just do it. Like life is not end. Yeah, like life is end, yeah. But is this thing na ki life is like basically is this thing na how like basically is this thing most of people kind of like say, okay, yeah, like you are kind of like 30, you live your half of your life, what you will gonna do? Half of your life? Like will I able to die after 60 or what? Okay, yeah. And like and basically another thing is that na ki just like that ki we are kind of like living in such a society where kind of like everything should supposed to happen at some certain age. Like you have to done your education till the kind of like somebody 18, get the graduation till the 22, get a job till 25, you get married at 29, get have a kids till 30, things and that and that. Okay, yeah. So basically this is now what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that na ki life is not end yet. Even if you think that ki you have a kind of like a 60 year, that means 60 year. Like do you understand 60 years means how much time it is. It's a very long time. And as also is this thing na ki you don't have to prove anyone at all. Like I don't know, like basically am I kind of like doing this thing for proving something at all? No, I don't want. Like basically I don't know, I just wanted to do something right thing. Oh my god, there's a lot of wind over here. I don't know, you might kind of like listening this thing or not, but there is a lot of wind over here. Okay. Alright, so I am not gonna kind of like tell you how to build your resilience. It's you have to understand by yourself. Failure, yes, it fuck a lot. Sometimes I kind of like simply want to kill myself. That is true. And but I realized that ki just do it. Okay, yeah. What worse will gonna happen? I already kind of like simply going through worse. So how much worse will gonna happen? So just do the thing. Okay, yeah. Having that little bit of resilience is kind of like a make you something really good. And also is this thing being fail means kind of like a doing something. You are doing something, that's why you are kind of like a failing, na? It doesn't mean that you are kind of like a fail because of wrong and things and that. Fail, learn from it and just do it. Okay. So be resilience. Adaptability. Oh, that's a really good thing. Adaptability means changing according to the situation. Now what exactly is this thing? Okay, so changing according to the situation means like that simple is that change according to the situation. How? In the first example that I mentioned, you kind of like somebody is this thing that key understand the people, and when you understand the people, change your behavior according to that particular person. Same thing, understanding and kind of like adaptability. You are kind of like using both at the same time to kind of like somebody solve the problem and things and that. Communication, dude. Oh my god. Like this is the one of the biggest skill that is very very essential. Like literally this thing that na can even if you don't know the Newton's law, even if you don't know the trigonometry, even if you don't know how IC engine work, even if you don't know how the economics work, even if you don't know anything at all, and you are kind of like a master in communication, you gonna win the world, dude. You don't. I just kind of like simply blown out by how much communication is actually matter, dude. How much? Literally just kind of like you make the world, you break the world by your communication. Like literally all the knowledge in the world are kind of like useless in front of communication. And communication is just like so big. It's a very, very essential, dude. Very, very essential. Communication is that key, how you present your idea, how do you present yourself, how do you present your needs and things to the in front of people and things and that. Communication is a very very essential, and I think that now even if I'm talking for almost like a last 11 year in Artifact, I'm really good at communicating. I am really good at communicating in the Artifact, but in front of the people I cannot able to. Sometimes I kind of like a fumble a lot and things and that. It's just like that now. I don't know. Can I able to tell you regarding about how much important it is? It's very fucking important. Like, really, really important. Regarding about how you present yourself. Like basically is this thing na ki people are just like basically is this thing na, if you are a good communicator, you are more have chances to be a leader. Okay, yeah. And when you are leader, people follow, dude. And also let me tell you one thing. People are love to follow. Yeah, like basically they love to follow. They don't want to kind of like put themselves in spotlight. If you are the kind of like a somebody particular person who are kind of like a somebody love to kind of like a somebody that key communicate means what? Like a talking? No, that is a completely wrong. Communication means like that key a communicate, present your idea, but also understand things. When you are really good communicator, you are also good leader too. I think that na ki talking about the communication is this thing that ki it comes from the confidence. Okay, yeah. And confidence also came from the experience. Okay. Like basically is this thing na ki communication is not just kind of like somebody is just yelling at somebody and things and that. No, that is not. Communication means how do you present your like communicate with confidence. like a talking with a confidence, that is called communication. Okay, yeah. Like basically it's this thing na ki right now I'm kind of like a talking. Okay, right now I'm kind of like a talking. Right now you are not in front of you, like you are not in front of me and things and that and that. But let me tell you one thing, I am talking this thing with confidence. Okay, and how am I kind of like a talking with the confidence? Where that confidence actually came from my experience. And where that experience actually came from, throughout all the 10 year of my recording artifact and understanding the point of perspective and things and that and that and that and that, these are experience I have. So because of I have experience, automatically it create confidence. Because of it create confidence, that's why I'm actually asking this question regarding about that ki Indian education system and things and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. So being communication is very much essential. It's not just because of just talk, it's just because of talking with the confidence. And confidence came from the work, effort, and kind of like things and that and that. So these are kind of like things. How do I supposed to implement those values in my education system? I have like basically this thing na in my education system, I will gonna kind of like somebody teach one of the kind of like a basic important of education, basic importance of knowing stuff, finance education, sex education, personal development. These are some of the skills are kind of like including this thing. Okay, yeah. Then basically this thing exercise, physical exercise. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing, read books. Okay, yeah. If you wanted to implement those values in your life, read book, record artifact. Like basically if you are listening this shit is because of that I kind of like already make the application, I already became that particular person, and I'm kind of like genuinely kind of like telling you this thing. Even if you're not believing my application, okay, don't use my application. Okay, don't use. You have default recorder in your app, in your phone. Okay, just go to the ChatGPT, kind of like say I ask me kind of like somebody 20 questions for personal development. ChatGPT kind of like suggest those 20 questions. Ask this question to yourself. That's it. Ask this question and every single day. Be consistent. Just do it. Literally, it change your life. Change does not kind of like you could feel at early stage, but if you're being consistent, you will gonna improve a lot. So basically this thing, how do I supposed to incorporate? I will try, like basically these are kind of like skills are incorporate in millions of ways. I will gonna implement in education system too, but it's just like that na ki right now how do I supposed to kind of like tell you on this and that and that, because consequences, situation are kind of like a different. Okay, yeah. Like basically I told you regarding about the office situation, regarding about your team leader kind of like ask you to come to the weekend and things like that and that. Now, not every person kind of like go through the same process or same consequences, right? So understand the concept and implement that concept in your reality, in your kind of like things. Okay, yeah. Because every consequences are kind of like a different according to you, according to surrounding and things and that and that. Just understand and things. I think that now one of the important thing that I have to kind of like tell you is this thing. Just record the artifact or you will gonna implement. Okay, and read books. Okay, yeah. Okay, one kind of like a somebody suggestion what you supposed to do. Whatever the book that you read, let's just say you buy the kind of like a book named Atomic Habit. Okay, you read the book. Okay, yeah. And what should you supposed to do? Go to the ChatGPT, kind of like say, I read this Atomic Habit book. I wanted to implement the value. Suggest me 20 question. ChatGPT kind of like suggest 20 question. Ask this question to yourself honestly with your own recorder application in phone. Just do it. That's it. You're not only kind of like reading a book, you are also implementing the value of that book. That's it. Okay, yeah. You will understand everything. Then I don't have to kind of like tell you regarding about everything. Okay, so these are kind of like something like value that I will gonna provide in my education system. Alright, this is it, and thank you.